The following is a production of Stevenson Media.
With your hands on my chest, you're an artist with your body. Closer and closer, you're all over me. As the passion's running wild and free. Your eyes roll, you take control. I'm so love drunk that I drank you up.
Want to tip the host? Just scan the QR code or click the link in the description. Get a free Houston Sports State of the Union podcast t-shirt with a donation of $50 or more.
Takes ball four, and now Albert Pujols will come to the plate representing a go-ahead run.
Yordan Alvarez, walk-off home run, first game of the postseason. Game-winning home run, game 2 of the postseason.
I would expect to see all sliders in this at bat for Brad Lidge.
Yordan Alvarez. He's ahead 2-1.
0-1 to Pujols.
2-1 Alvarez.
In the air, left field, and Pujols has given St. Louis the lead.
High drive, center field. Veerling's back. This game is turned upside down.
Following program is brought to you by Broke Ass Furniture, where it don't matter if you're broke, because so is the furniture. So get your broke ass down here and buy some furniture. If the Texans win the Super Bowl, you get your money back, but I'm taking the furniture back too. Dial 1-800-BROKE-AF and ask for Futon Frank. Broke Ass Furniture saves you money!
This is the Houston Sports State of the Union Podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, the president of Houston Sports Nation, Nick Stevenson.
My goodness, thank you. Please be seated. My fellow Houstonians, it is my great pleasure to finally address you for the first time as the president of Houston Sports Nation. My name is Nick Stevenson, and welcome to this rehearsal for the Houston Sports State of the Union podcast. The reason we're rehearsing is because we're trying to work out the kinks, and it appears I've found my first kink. I think because I made this a private video, you guys are not able to get in the chat. And that is extremely unfortunate. If you guys get an opportunity to, please, you can go to the Facebook group or the Facebook event if you were tagged in it and invited in it. You guys should be able to put comments under the video there. I do apologize. I did plan on having you guys participate via the chat. Now, you'll still have an opportunity to call the studio because we need to test that out as well. But either way, I hope that everybody who was invited has made it here. I want you to know that if you're here, it's because I value your opinion. I value your friendship. I value your support. And I even value your constructive criticism, if it may come. And I'm sure this being a rehearsal, there'll be plenty of that. So I thank you guys so much. There's 100 different things you could be doing tonight, and you decided to tune into this rehearsal. And so I'm very, very appreciative. I don't want that to be lost on you guys. If you guys would like to support this show, I'm going to be announcing a release date soon. As soon as I get together with the real boss, my wife, and make sure that the schedule I have planned is going to work for her. But if you guys want to support the show, there's a bunch of different ways you can do it. Number one, just share. Tell your friends on social media, in person. Please just let people know. If you have friends who are fans of Houston sports and they want to listen to a podcast from a guy who's one of them, then please tell them about the Houston Sports State of the Union podcast. Share the content that's on Facebook, Instagram, we're even on X/Twitter. And at the end of the day, this isn't going to work without you guys. This podcast is dependent on all of you forming Houston Sports Nation and sharing this thing. So I can't do it without you. So I appreciate the fact that you're here, and I will appreciate if you continue to share with your friends. Another way to support the show is a tip jar. You'll see right there. Hold on, let me figure out how to point at this thing. There's a QR code. If you would like to leave a tip, there's several different dollar amounts. I think anything from $1 to a couple $100. Anything that you donate to this show is going to go right back to the show to help continue bringing you great content. And I hope that you guys will continue to enjoy the content on a regular basis. If you do a donation of $50 or more, I will send you a free t-shirt. So what I'll need you to do, if you do that, go ahead and take a screenshot of the confirmation that you've sent that over. And you can send that to either my Facebook, my Instagram Messenger. Some of you have my phone number. So you guys let me know if you've sent a tip of $50 or more, and I'll make sure that I give you guys a t-shirt. Okay, so the big question is, who the heck is Nick Stevenson? Why would he appoint himself president of Houston Sports Nation? And why should we listen to him? Those are all very good, valid questions. This is what I will tell you about Houston Sports State of the Union podcast. This is not going to be one of those talking head shows where I pretend I know everything. I know more than you. I talk about things that I don't know about as if I know about them. You guys know the type of shows I'm talking about. This is not going to be one of them. But I promise you, this is a show by someone who cares just as much, if not more than you do. And what does that look like? Well, do I have thousands of dollars worth of sports memorabilia from the Texans, Astros, Rockets, Dynamo? No, I do not. Do I have season tickets to all of the games? No, I don't. I probably go to 1 or 2 games a year. At this age and this stage of my life, it's difficult for me to even sit down and watch every game live. Thank goodness for technology, for DVR. I am able to record the games and then go back and watch them. Oftentimes, whenever I'm not at work or whenever I'm not working on things for this podcast. So I will, in fact, be watching the games that I'm talking about. So you can know at least that. I'm not going to talk about games that I haven't watched, but I am doing this show because I want to represent the sports fan like me. Now, some of you may be watching this because you're supporting me, you're my friends, you're my family, and you're not even really that into sports. At least you don't think you are. And the reason I think that this show is going to resonate with you, because like sports, this show is going to be more than just about a game. And what do I mean when I say that? Well, yes, sports is statistics, analysis, speed, athleticism, strength, all of those things. And we will talk about statistics. We will talk about the games, and we will break down X's and O's. I will do my best not to fumble that. I want to bring in people who've actually played the game, people who've actually coached the game, people who cover the game. My eventual goal is to be a credentialed media member so that I can cover these games for you guys the way that you deserve. But for those of you who think you're not into sports, maybe you've just been looking at sports the wrong way. Because to me, sports is so much more about the game. To me, it's more of a metaphor for life. Failure and victory. Now, sports has taught me some great lessons and it's given me some great memories. I'll just give you one example. I'll never forget the first time that my father took me to the Astrodome for an Astros game. Now I'm aging myself significantly here. Now, full disclosure, I'd been to the Astrodome before, actually. We used to do Bible conventions there frequently, but I'd never been as a baseball game. I remember during the Bible convention, sometimes it was very distracting that the stage was sitting on top of a baseball field. My little kid mind, I remember just imagining that there were people running the bases that weren't there. Not really paying attention like I maybe should have been. But there was something different about that first baseball game. First of all, I remember as a small child just thinking the Astrodome is enormous. How can a building be this big? How is it that this huge glass ceiling is not caving in on top of us? When they call the Astrodome the eighth wonder of the world, there is a reason. And it's funny because when I think about it, I can almost put myself there in those moments. I remember being a little kid. It's hot as heck outside because it's the summertime. And if I close my eyes, like I can literally feel and smell what I'm about to describe to you. So we usually sat in the pavilions back when the pavilions were about $9 per ticket to sit there. We would go, you have to go up a couple of ramps. And I just remember walking up to these huge metal doors and I remember it being hot. And if I close my eyes, I can feel those metal doors opening and then this gush of cold air that smells like nachos, peanuts, popcorn, like just the smell of baseball. And the one thing that we didn't have because it was an indoor dome that had AstroTurf is you couldn't smell the grass. But, you know, so many people have told me their first baseball game, they were amazed by how green the grass was. Well, the grass was always green at the Astrodome because it was fake. But I'll just never forget that moment. I'll never, you know, even when we did our Bible conventions there, the place was never filled to capacity. I as a small child, I couldn't believe how many people were there. The roar of the crowd. And what I will say is me and my dad did not go to baseball games often, but the couple of times that we did were really special. And the reason that even resonates with me now is because as an adult, I can honestly say my father and I don't see eye to eye on a lot of things. Oftentimes, if we try to talk about those things we don't see eye to eye on, it rarely goes well. But for just a few minutes, my father and I, we can talk about sports. And all of a sudden, we're on the same page. And I have to give him a lot of credit for the love of sports that I have. And not just the love of sports, but specifically Houston sports. So that was my first Astros experience when he took me to this game. And let me tell you, so the Astros were playing the Pirates or the Giants. I can't remember because I know Barry Bonds was playing against us. I don't remember if he was still with the Pirates or if he had already gone over to the Giants. I want to say it was the Giants. And I remember him coming up to bat for the first time. And this is when my father told me, you got to boo the other team. And boy, he messed up there. Because if you go to the games with me now, booing is my favorite thing to do. Like, I know for a fact I embarrass my family because I am going to boo the hell out of the other team, out of the refs, out of the cheerleaders. I'll boo anybody. I don't care. Like, that is my rite of passage when I go to these games. So Barry Bonds comes up and we're just boo, like booing the heck out of him. Then he proceeds to hit a home run that landed like 3 rows in front of us. And the Astros lost that game, actually. And you know what? If they had won the game, I probably wouldn't have been hooked. Because they lost, that made me want to come back because I wanted to see them win. And I didn't just want to see them win because I was at the game. Like, this was my team. This was Houston team. And like my city had a team to root for. And I wanted to see them win. So that loss to the Giants was my first ever sports heartbreak, I guess you could call it. But I was hooked from that moment on. And I went through many, many, many more failures with the Houston Astros. But just like in life, I want you to imagine in your life, could you imagine if in your profession, all but 3% of the people in your profession were able to ultimately achieve their goal? Because that's what happens in sports. There's 30 teams in the MLB. There's 32 teams in football and in basketball. I'm not entirely sure about soccer. We're going to get into that in a little bit. But 3% of all the teams in these leagues ultimately achieve the final goal, which is to win that championship. Everyone else goes home disappointed. So that sounds crazy. Like, why would you do that? Why on earth would you do that? Well, like I said, for me, it was the pride of a team being where I was from. And it was the memories that I made watching those teams. Let me tell you guys about my very first Houston Rockets memory. The day I became a Houston Rockets fan was February 20th, 1992. The Houston Rockets had just fired Don Chaney, their head coach, and they hired his assistant, Rudy Tomjanovich, to be the interim coach. Now, I hadn't been watching the Rockets before this, but I knew they sucked because I heard a lot of people talking about how bad they suck. Now, my dad had already introduced me to basketball. It was probably my favorite sport at the time. When I was little, my dad was a Larry Bird fan, and he got me a Larry Bird Nerf hoop when I was really small, and I just got hooked to the game after that. I loved it, and I don't remember if Dad was watching this game. Rudy T's first game was against the 76ers, and I don't know if my dad had turned it on or if I was flipping channels, but like I caught it at the beginning, and this was the first game I watched from beginning to end. And they won. It was a home game. They won. And I just remember being so happy and excited that they won. Even though I had no idea what they'd been going through before, I just knew it was a big deal that they won. And I remember the optimism in the voices of Bill Worrell and Calvin Murphy, two Hall of Famers in their own right. And I just remember like feeling really excited about watching the next game. But what I was most in awe about was that man they called the Dream. Hakeem Olajuwon, at that time, and I had never seen anybody play the game the way he did, offensively and defensively. He could jump out the gym. His moves were smooth like butter. He was athletic. He could dribble. I mean, he could do it all, man. And it was very clear to me that he was really good at basketball, and I immediately became a fan. Now, the Rockets missed the playoffs that year. But there was a lot of optimism going into the next season. And so the next season they do make the playoffs. However, my first Rockets heartbreak was they win the first round against the Los Angeles Clippers. And then the second round, they get to Game 7 against the Seattle Supersonics. We're talking Gary Payton, Sean Kemp. I believe Sam Perkins was on that team. That was a bad team. They were dangerous. And we lost in Game 7 in a really heartbreaking fashion. I wasn't even watching that game. If I recall, this is the thing about sports, man. Like when you tell these stories, you can put yourself where you were in those moments. I was at a congregation picnic while the game was going on, and there were people in their cars listening on the radio with the doors open. So I heard Gene Peterson and Jim Foley, to this day, still my favorite broadcasters of all times, calling this game, and I could hear the heartbreak in their voices when the Rockets lost that game. It was devastating, man. That's like the first time I got teary-eyed about a loss, and it would not be the last. Now, the next season, they won their first of 2 championships, and at that point, I was hooked. I'll never forget watching the finals, sitting on the living room floor with my parents of whatever apartment we lived in at the time. Something in my mind remembers there being a bed on the floor. Like, I don't know if my pops was in the doghouse or maybe we brought the bed out there so we could watch the game. That part I don't know. But I remember just watching that game, and at that point, like, if I wasn't hooked on the Rockets then or before then, I definitely was now. And that's another memory that I have with my father that, like I said, at the age that I'm at, I unfortunately don't have a ton of memories of things that I did with my father or with my family. I don't really know why that is. I know it may have been a financial thing, it may have been a time thing, but those few moments, I'll remember them forever. When my father's no longer here, and let's knock on some wood that's far from now, but I'll have those moments that I'll remember forever. As another moment, really quick on that game, the Rockets had just won the championship, and I'll never forget that while everyone was going crazy around Hakeem Olajuwon, he paused and he took a moment to just take it all in. And that just spoke volumes to me. Like, there's people going nuts around him. As a matter of fact, there's this one dude who's like, yeah, boy, all in his face. And he just kind of like pushes him away and he just stops and he just soaked it in for a minute. And it made me realize that was a moment, this is only my second, third year of being a Rockets fan. I figured, oh man, we're going to do this every year. Come on. No, haven't been back since. That was 1994. Well, we did go back one more time in 95. And in 95 was actually the first time I went to a Houston Rockets game. Another great memory I have with my father and my uncle. They got tickets from work, so they had good seats. Like, we had good seats, man. Like, you could smell the players. We were sitting so close. And my pops and my uncle took me. The Rockets had just acquired Clyde Drexler, and they beat the brakes off the Timberwolves. This was the year right before the Timberwolves end up getting Kevin Garnett. But man, it was just a great experience, and it's something that's going to stick with me forever. And it has nothing to do with the game. I can't tell you what the score was. I know we won. I don't know what the score was. I don't know who scored the most points. I can't tell you who had the most rebounds, none of that. All I remember is being a kid, hanging out with his dad and his uncle, taking in a game, and creating a memory that I'll never forget. The Houston Texans was a little bit different. I was 18 years old when they played their first game, and I lived in California at the time. I hadn't watched football in years either. Before we moved to California, the Oilers were a thing, but they had gone through a devastating loss against the Buffalo Bills where they blew a 35-3 lead at halftime. The following season, they lose to Joe Montana and the Kansas City Chiefs. And weirdly, none of my family was really Oilers fans, though. They were all Cowboys and Steelers fans somehow. Thinking about that now is really gross. I don't like it. It makes me feel dirty. Why would you guys do that? Don't do that. But yeah, so I hadn't watched football in years. I remember the Texans being announced that they were going to be a thing, and I thought, man, that was cool. But even though I didn't really care about football, you know what I did care about? I cared about the city that I'm from. Now, I lived in California, northern Los Angeles County, for 8 years, okay? And this was during the peak prime time of the Los Angeles Lakers Shaq and Kobe era. I mean, prime Shaq, pretty early prime Kobe, dynasty, 3 championships in a row. It would have been very, very easy for me to hop on that bandwagon. But no, I wasn't going to do it, man. The entire time I lived out there, I was 10 toes down for H-Town. And it was tough. We even played the Lakers in the playoffs the year before they got Steve Francis. You guys may recall we had Scottie Pippen at the time, and he sucked. He dribbled the ball off of his foot out of bounds. Then they give the ball to rookie Coutinho Mobley to try to make the game-winning shot in Game 5, and he gets stuffed by Shaq. It was another one of those sports heartbreaks, man, but it didn't matter to me because I knew what I understand about life and sports is it's the heartbreak, it's the hard times, it's the struggle that when you finally win, if you tried to start a business 15 times and every single one of them fell flat on their face, and you finally get one that hits and it works out for you. If it were not for those 15 failures, you would not appreciate the one that hit. Imagine the first business you ever try to start just takes off, blows up, boom, you're huge. there's no way in the world you could possibly appreciate that the way you appreciate it going through the struggle, the fight. And that's how I feel like sports and life are very similar to one another. I played a video short before the show started that I made, and it's about the Albert Pujols home run off of Brad Lidge. Now, let me tell you guys a story about that season really quick. The Astros started off like 16-32 or 18-32 something. They were terrible at the beginning of that season. And the Houston Chronicle at the time wrote this article putting the Astros season to bed. They were dead. So that's hard enough as it is. Now, imagine the joy the city felt when they went on a tremendous run. Now, they had 3 Hall of Famers on their pitching staff. You had Roger Clemens, Andy Pettitte, Roy Oswalt, and then you had 2 pretty good young pitchers in Wandy Rodriguez and Brandon Backey. They had no hitting, unfortunately. Like, pretty much Lance Berkman was just about it. Biggio was on the downside of his career. This is back when shortstops didn't have to hit. They just had to be really good defensively. So we had people like Adam Everett. I guess Morgan Insberg stopped taking steroids that year. I don't know. But offensively, they were not good. They had just lost Carlos Beltran the year before. But that pitching staff carried them. And they won, and they won, and they won. And then the 163rd game of the season, because they had to play an extra game because I believe they were in a tie with the Cubs. They won the wild card, and they made the playoffs. And not only did they make the playoffs, they beat their nemesis, the Atlanta Braves, in the first round on a walk-off home run from Chris Burke, one of the greatest moments in Astros history. They get to play the Cardinals next, who was another one of their nemesis. The Cardinals had beaten them the year before to go to the World Series. So now they're back in the NLCS. They're playing the Cardinals. They're up 3-1. It's game 5. They go up early. I believe Lance Berkman hit like a 2-run home run to put them up. I'm telling you, literally, people were dancing in the aisles. We were about to go to our first World Series ever. People were literally dancing in the aisles. I wish I'd have gotten video to show you this. Like, I lived in California at the time, and I was dancing in my living room because I was ready. This is the moment I had been waiting for. Then comes the 9th inning. Brad Lidge was the best closer in baseball. He was young. He had a rocket of an arm. He could throw a 100-mile-an-hour fastball and then hook a nasty slider into the dirt that looked just like the fastball until the last minute. He was the best closer in baseball at the time. Now, I do remember he'd been a little bit shaky before this game. And so everybody knew that if 2 people got on, all they needed was 2 guys to get on. That meant Albert Pujols was coming up. And I think there were still 4 or 5 batters to go. So it was going to have to be a disaster for Albert Pujols to make it up to that plate. Well, I remember Eckstein got a hit, and then he walks Jim Edmonds, and up comes Albert Pujols. There's 2 outs to go. The Astros are 1 out away from their first World Series ever. And you guys know how it goes. Albert Pujols hit a home run that if the roof hadn't been closed, that ball would probably still be flying. He crushed it. Okay. Let's see, this is 2005. So I'm 20, 21. My wife at the time is pregnant with my oldest daughter. And I was not in a good mood, man. I was not in a good mood. I wanted to cry. I was too angry to cry at that moment. And I remember my daughter's mother had no clue, like, what the hell is wrong with you? Like, she wasn't into baseball. She wasn't into sports. She's like, she's mad at me because I'm in a bad mood because she tries to talk to me and I'm just like, I don't even want to talk. And like, so now I'm fighting with her because the Astros lost. And what's crazy is they had a chance to win the next game and go to the World Series, which they eventually did. But you don't understand, like, that moment, at that time, the Astros had failed so many times that, like, it just felt like the shoe's going to drop. Well, they get to the World Series that year and they get swept. So more heartbreak, right? If it wasn't for all of that, guys, 2017 wouldn't matter. Now, I know there's a lot of controversy about 2017. Bump that. What I'm saying is that the reason that moment was so special is because of everything that happened before. The reason Yordan Alvarez moonshot over center field was like an exercise of the demons, was not only because of everything that had happened prior to 2017, but because of the cloud around 2017. And at that point, we were invested. We as a city were invested. If you don't care about the game, care about the things that are bigger than the game. I want you to think about when we all went through Hurricane Harvey. Devastating time, but the city pulled itself together by itself. Before the feds showed up, we were already cleaning up. We had this. Like, we were taking care of it. We didn't need them. Now, maybe you never cared about football a day in your life, but maybe your house was in a pile in rubble. And all of a sudden, a gentleman named J.J. Watt comes along and manages to raise $37 million when all he asked for was $200,000. And he rebuilds your house for you. Or he rebuilds your mother's house or your grandma's house. Now, all of a sudden, you go from, I don't care about football, to now you care about this person who has invested themselves into your community. And that's the part about sports that's bigger than just a game. I got to tell you, that's what I hope. You know, like I said, on this show, we're going to talk about all of the things. We're going to talk about the stats and everything. But I'm here for the sports fan who it's bigger than a game. I want eventually to be able to have sponsors that'll help me give away tickets to a father who's never been able to take his kids to a game, or to a family who's never been able to go to a game together. Like, I want to introduce young kids to the pride that comes with being a fan of the Houston Rockets, being a fan of the Houston Astros, being a fan of the Houston Texans. Because very similar to when I was young, there wasn't a whole lot of Houston pride prior to those championships by the Rockets. Everybody was in love with the Bulls. The Bulls were my generation's Golden State Warriors. And this is what I don't understand. Sports has always, to me, it's supposed to be a regional thing. But also, like, I don't understand bandwagon sports fans, because you're selling yourself short of the experience. Because let's say you became a Golden State Warriors fan because they started winning championships. All of a sudden, like, they're winning, you're fans of them, but they win all these championships. It doesn't mean anything to you. And the first time they lost, like, that didn't hurt you, because you didn't go through the battles, man. You didn't go through the tough times to earn the feeling good that you get with the championship. And I may have fell off a little bit, but what I'm trying to say is, like, the memories to me always meant more than the game. The pride in my city always meant more than the game. And I'm going to try to convey that in this show. And I'm going to try to do my best to bring you guys along. And if, like I said, if you think you don't like sports, maybe you've just been looking at sports the wrong way. I want you to think about your life and how your life parallels to sports. Anyways, I think I was finally hooked on the Texans in 2006 when they hired Gary Kubiak, and he had the number 1 pick in the draft, and we were going to draft Vince Young, baby. No, that did not happen. And that was probably my first my first disappointment with the Texans, even though it was probably the right decision. But I wanted them to draft Vince Young. But especially because he came back that year and literally walked the Texans off the field, like literally walked them off the field. But look, that's the heartbreak that made 2011 when a third string rookie named TJ Yates hits Kevin Walter on a slant route in the end zone to finally send them to the playoffs, finally win the division. If you don't have the heartbreak, the winning doesn't matter. And it's the same with life, man. If you don't go through the struggle, you can't appreciate the victory. And that's going to be a major theme tonight because that's the reason I want to do a sports podcast. If you guys listened to my previous show before, you know, I had to come up with something that was a little bit different, but something that still mattered to me. And that's what matters to me about sports. And I hope that Houston Sports Nation will continue to grow. I hope that maybe there's a fringe fan out there that's going to listen to this show and they're going to become an even bigger fan of the show. And look, man, if you got kids, take your kids to a game. Dynamo tickets are very affordable. You can get affordable Rockets tickets, depending on who they're playing. Texans are ridiculous. Me and my brother went to a preseason game, and that was crazy, but it was still a great experience, man. And I'm blessed that my wife and I have been able to take our kids to the Astros and to the Rockets game. It's just it's a good bonding experience. Like I said, I couldn't tell you anything about those games, but it's just the memories and the moments and the pride in your city that it creates. So what is the Houston Sports State of the Union? Houston Sports State of the Union will be a weekly State of the Union address where we will basically assess where all of our teams are and where all of our fans are, because unfortunately Houston fans have a little bit of a complex. And that's one of the things I'm here to change. Houston fans care a little bit too much about what the national media is saying. To that, I say pooey. Who cares what the national media is saying? They don't watch our teams. They don't care about our teams. They're not going to be giving an accurate assessment of what's going on in our city anyway. All it's going to do is tick you off, and you guys are going to say how much you hate Joe Buck and how much you hate any team or any commentator that you think is biased against Houston. They're not biased against Houston. They just don't know about us. Now, one of the things that Houston's going to have to get over is if our teams aren't doing anything special, we're not going to get any love. Okay? This isn't Los Angeles. This isn't New York. Our teams have to be special to get love. The Houston Texans succeeded in that. As a matter of fact, while we're at it, let's go ahead and get to the State of the Union for the Houston Texans. That is what I'm talking about. Check me out, man. I'm in Reliant Stadium. Okay. The Houston Texans putting a bow on their season because we're about to get into the offseason. What can I say, man? CJ Stroud, D'Amico Ryans, all around. Like, there's so much optimism around this team, and they have to be the main reason why. We've got cap space. There's been a complete culture shift from the top to the bottom. I talked about in one of my pregame shows, the Texans were looked upon by the rest of the league, by the rest of the country, as a complete dumpster fire. And let's face it, they were. And just like that, in the snap of a finger, you get a head coach, you get a young rookie quarterback who's talented, who's mature, and they flipped it around in a year, man. I tell you what, one of the things I wanted to do, because I do want to turn the page on this season, because we have a lot to look forward to, free agency and draft. But I asked you guys what your top 10 plays were, and some of you guys put them in the comments. Well, I made a top 10 list. I want you to watch it, and you tell me if you agree with it or not.
One who's been to a playoff and one who's 2.5 games into an outstanding career as the ball is bobbled and it's picked up by the fullback, and he's got running room. One who's been to a playoff and one who's 2.5 games into an outstanding career as the ball is bobbled and it's picked up by the fullback, and he's got running room. Andrew Beck, after Boone couldn't handle it, it's still going. Beck, he's going to go all the way in. Did we just see what we just saw?
try a 29-yard field goal.
If I'm Tampa Bay, I'm very alert on fakes here.
Agunbowale, 7-year NFL veteran, normally a running back. The field goal attempt is good! Houston leads! Smiles for everybody inside the stadium.
He has had success running the football in the Big Ten at Wisconsin, success running the football in the NFL with a variety of teams. But as you noted earlier, no bigger smile, no bigger happiness, I think, in his NFL career than what we're seeing right now from Dare Ogunbowale, kicking the football.
Texans trying to get some points at the end of this half. They also will get the football to begin the second half. Stroud on first down. He was looking downfield. He's going downfield toward the end zone. Down, a leaping grab. He's got it. Touchdown, Texans.
C.J. Stroud just directed that play because once he broke the pocket, he pointed to Tank Dell and said, turn it up. He goes in and then curls out. He goes in. He's open right there, but now he's outside the pocket and he points and he throws from my hands to your hands.
It's what we talked about earlier, the time in the pocket that the offensive line affords.
Seconds to go. On second down, Stroud, downfield.
Now they're going to lay on him. Look at him lay on him. They're going to make him come and get him off.
It's Brown with another catch. They're trying to rush here. We're down to 18 seconds, 17 seconds. Stroud will clock it. 6 defensive backs in there for the Buccaneers. Stroud looking. Deep ball. Hold in. Takedown. 10 seconds to go. And now, can they win it? Stroud to the end zone. Touchdown. Takedown. C.J. Stroud leads a magical drive.
And he takes him down. 46, 2 timeouts.
About that as Stroud, little play action to start. Good protection. Airs it out for Collins. He's got it. One play. Touchdown, Texans. 75 yards to start the night for number 7.
And it's Nico Collins, and there's no disguise to what he's doing. It's just a foot race. He takes off on the deep post. It's rookie Juju Brents who's in coverage on him. A lot of plays that were close to being something big, but they forced the punt. Here's Sims. Right up the middle. Still going. Steven Sims.
Good night.
He is gone. No flags. Touchdown, Texans.
Weeks ago, gave up 13 pressures.
We have Fant in at left tackle as this one goes to Brevin Jordan, the tight end, makes a man miss, and then shows off the speed. Jordan, pedal to the middle. He's gone. Touchdown, Texans, 76 yards.
Really sells this. Here he is. Watch him block for a full 2 count. 1,001, 1,002, then release. That's why there's no coverage there. He did a great job of being patient, setting up the tight end screen, and then did the rest with his speed and athleticism.
Play action for Stroud. Good protection. Loads it up. Fires downfield. Excellent touch. Perfectly delivered. Touchdown. Dalton Schultz. Stroud strikes again for 37 yards.
CJ included. They said, you know what? We didn't play very well. Not to take anything away from Cleveland. We didn't execute well. We just need to execute better. So far, the offensive execution in the first half has been excellent for Houston. Watch him square up the safety, runs by him, makes a great move on Ronnie Hickman.
54-yard attempt, left hash mark. Here's the snap. Here's the spot. Here's the kick by Fairbairn.
Yes!
Good! The Texans win!
Yes!
Legendary! Fairbairn knocks it through from the 54 as the Texans defeat the former Oilers.
Put those uniforms back in the trunk.
19-16.
Flacco. Pressure comes, gets rid of it. It's picked off. Steven Nelson takes it away, and he's looking to go the other way. Nelson has a convoy down the sideline. Touchdown.
As good as he's played, he has thrown 8 interceptions in his 5 starts. They heat the pocket up a little bit. Derek Barnett, number 95, forced it, and Flacco just not able to get enough on that football to throw it away. Couple great blocks. Cashman with a huge block. Stingley with the block at the end.
They run it. Flacco dials it up. Picked off again. Christian Harris is going to go. Back-to-back pick sixes. Houston, you have no problem with this defense.